Hey guys, this is Dion here with your Guitar Academy and welcome to the first unit of our Cory Wong player study. So in this unit I want to take you through mostly Cory's kind of right hand technique and how to really get a cool, forceful, accurate, sort of clean sound whilst playing, his style of funk guitar. So we're going to talk about that right hand technique. We're also going to talk about the fundamentals of 16th note strumming and working with a metronome or drum beat. And I also want to take you through a ninth chord shape. So we're going to be using an E9 in this unit. So grab your guitar and let's get ready. If you just joined us, please don't forget to head over to the website where you can get all of the additional course materials, including the handbook, any tabs, any backing tracks and chord diagrams as well. Also, please don't forget to like and subscribe and leave us a comment as well. It really helps us out to hear how you've been getting on with the courses, and any questions you have, we will definitely get back to you.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
So the first thing you're going to want to do is take a look at your picking hand. So I almost said right hand there, but obviously I'm aware that some of you guys watching this might be a lefty. So we're going to be working on our picking hand technique for this entire unit. So, as mentioned in the primer with Dan, there's a couple of things to think about. One of them is that I actually personally quite like to use a fairly thin pick for this sort of style, because I just find that if you use a pick that's too thick, it just sort of sounds a bit too aggressive on the strings, and it also just doesn't, I feel like it makes you work a little bit harder because there's more resistance. So, to get a bit nerdy on you, I'm using like just a 0.71 millimeter Dunlop pick, but you can go, it's a subjective thing, so whatever you want to do really, but there is a bit of flex to this. I don't know if you can see that there on the camera. Just means that when you hit the string, there's a bit of give in the pick. So before we actually get into the chord and the kind of exercise that we're going to do, I want to talk to you about the way Cory strums the strings. So he's obviously incredibly famous for this metronomic accuracy when he plays his style of guitar. And another thing that you're going to want to watch out for is the way that his wrist moves. It's so loose and so just like, it looks like it's almost going to, unattached from his arm at points. It's that loose. And he says, like, I think he makes a joke of it and says, you basically remove all bone from your wrist and your hand and it's just cartilage. There's no it's almost like a piece of rubber. So you're going to want to get used to this feeling of having your picking hand very, very loose and relaxed. And also he tends to strum as well. If you watch him, he tends to strum with his fingers out. So you could do it in as well, but I've found personally that I can get it a bit more true to Cory's style if I have my fingers out like this. So just get, before we look at this first exercise, just get used to just striking the strings in that way, just with a downstroke, just kind of, you want to travel across the strings very quickly. So you're almost whipping your wrist, and you see my wrist, if you look at my picking hand, is just so loose. There's no kind of rigidity there at all. Okay, so that's something you're going to want to get used to. First and foremost as well, the downstroke, before you attack the upstroke, which we'll do in a sec, just get used to that whipping across, as I say. You're traveling quite quick across the strings. See if you can bring in an upstroke now. And you see again, my wrist it almost looks like it's kind of limp. It's obviously not completely limp because I do have an element of control over it, but it's about just making sure it's relaxed enough, to capture this style. So we're going to be focusing mostly on 16th notes in this course. So as Dan and I mentioned in the first, this is technically the first unit, but as we mentioned in the primer, 16th notes, there is essentially, in a bar of 4/4, you've got 16 of them, okay, hence the name. So what you have to do is you have to divide, or what's called subdivide, each one of those beats that are called quarter notes into 4 more beats. So I've got a drum beat here that's at 60 BPM, and I'm just going to, without a chord or anything at the moment, I'm just going to hit these 16th notes in time with that, and you can hear what it sounds like. So, and that's, in fact, before I do that, that's actually one thing I want to mention. Again, as mentioned in the primer, this course is all about metronomic timing and accuracy. So definitely get your hands on a drum beat or metronome if you can. And Cory will tell you the same thing. Okay, so if I just strum quarter notes, that would obviously just be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then 16ths, we're doubling in the amount again. So 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a... Okay, and you hear the way that I'm counting those is 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. So it's very important because that's going to come into play as we progress through this unit. So the next thing I want to talk about is we're going to start, we're going to keep this as a constant throughout this unit, this act of moving our hand with these 16th notes. But we want to start adding a chord or a strum on a chord on certain beats. Okay, so the very first one that we're looking in this lesson is right on beat number 1. Okay, and the chord that we're going to use is called a 9 chord. So this chord is essentially like a dominant 7th chord, but we're adding in a further note above that flattened 7. We're adding what's called the 9. Okay, so just to talk through a little bit of theory about the chord, I'm going to play it from fret 7 here, which is a note of E. So this is our root note, this is our 3rd, this is our flattened 7th, and then this note here is the 9. And then you can add this on top as well, which is the 5th, okay, this note of B on top. So that gives us a full dominant 7th chord, root, 3rd, flat 7, 5th, but then with that note in there as well, it gives us the 9, okay, and this can function generally in the same way as a dominant 7th chord. There's obviously various different types of dominant 7, but this is another nice option of a chord to play instead of one of those chords, or of a regular dominant 7th chord. Another thing as well, this is a movable chord shape, so you can play it anywhere, okay? Obviously, that will change the name of the chord because the root note is changing. For the purpose of this unit, we're going to play it mostly on fret number 7. As the unit progresses, you'll see there's a slight move at the end where we change chord shape, but for now, stick to that fret number 7. So, as I mentioned, this first exercise, we want to strike the chord exactly on beat number 1. Okay, so, and we're maintaining the movement and the ghost notes on the rest of the beat. So it would sound like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you're not sure what ghost notes are or muted notes, there's a few different kind of names for them. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm lifting or releasing the pressure with my fretting hand on the chord so that we have this metallic string noise as opposed to an actual chord. Okay, so it's what I kind of call it like squeeze and release. So I hit the chord, and then you see if I look at my fretting hand, it's kind of hard to see there, but I'm lifting the pressure almost instantly to cut the chord off and leaving the hand resting on the string. So that means when I then continue to strum it, I just have these dead notes, okay, or ghost notes or muted notes. There's a bunch of different names for them. So that's essentially what we're doing here. So yeah, we're only playing the chord and we're sounding the chord right on beat number 1. So it sounds like this: 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E, 3 E and a 4 E and a. So As I said before, I'm now going to try this with the drums at 60 BPM, and we can see how we really have to lock in solidly with these drums to get that, you know, metronomic sound. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3, 4, 3, 4. Let's do a couple more times. See, I'm maintaining relaxed wrist, this elastic kind of nature to it. Okay, excuse me. So, you notice a couple of things there. I'm not allowing the chord to ring out for very long at all. I'm actually releasing the pressure really quickly. I could even release it quicker than that and cut it off so quick so it could sound like this. So I'm rushing a bit there. Yeah, so the point is we're just sounding that chord just for that very first beat, and the rest of those 16th notes are going to be those muted strums, okay? So you might be thinking, right, how, you know, what should I be looking out for when I'm playing this sort of thing? So as I mentioned, the metronome on the drum beat is king, all right? So you really want to be locking into that, listening out for that, and trying to get your strumming hand moving in perfect harmony, in perfect time with this. Because obviously the metronome or the drums, it doesn't lie. You know, if you're, that is set there and that's run by a computer, so that's not going to go out of time. So it's only you that would be going out of time. So just try and challenge yourself to just really listen out for that and hit it each beat exactly where it needs to be. So once again, if you played this a bit faster, obviously I'm not recommending that you go too fast just yet, but when you play this a bit faster, you have to maintain that feel, and it starts to sound kind of like this. I started to add a few other strums in there, but it gives you an idea of how you build a 16th note pattern. So one thing to mention as well is that you wouldn't always be hitting muted notes like this when you're playing this sort of style. You'd often be going 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, and actually moving my hand away from the strings. But the reason I wanted to start with hitting the muted notes in this first unit is to just really make you hear where these 16th notes are falling in conjunction to your metronome or drum beat. Okay, so yeah, with that, start nice and slow, get that first beat down, make sure you're, as I keep going back to it, just so solidly in time with that metronome. If in doubt, slow down a little bit. So try not to go too fast too quickly, because there's no kind of cutting corners with this style. Because remember, we've got a very clean tone, very dry signal, so any mistakes are going to be quite exposed. So you really have to put in that work to get that nice and solid. Relax that picking hand, keep it nice and loose, as I said. And the thing as well forgot to mention about the pick is that you don't want to be squeezing the pick and gripping the pick really hard, because that again creates a bit of tension in our picking hand. But you obviously equally don't want to be holding it really loosely, because you will drop it, but just comfortable. Just make sure that your hand just feels, there's no tension. And then, yeah, stick your metronome or drums on and have a crack at that first exercise. And if it starts to get easy at that speed, just small incremental increases and you can bring it up a little bit faster. So give all those a try, have a bit of fun with that, and I'll see you in the next lesson. That's it for this lesson. If you want to go on to the next lesson, you can click here. And if you want to go back to the beginning of the course, you can click here. Also, please don't forget to leave us a comment. Let us know how you've been getting on with the course so far. And if you have any questions about anything, we'll answer it and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.